What is going on? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So I wanted to talk about the national championship. Georgia with a huge win over TCU, 65-7. And, yeah, man, you really got to see what Georgia looks like when they turn it on. And, Georgia loses a lot of guys, but, I mean, if you're looking ahead to next year, Mykel Williams is back. Carson back should be the quarterback. Edwards returns at running back. Get a couple transfers in the portal at receiver, and you gotta like LSU or Georgia's chances, to repeat next year. And Georgia did something very impressive because Alabama 2011, 2012 repeated, and then before that you got to go back to USC in 03-04, but keep in mind USC's 03, that was a shared national title. So, this one, super impressive. 2022, Georgia was, a little kind of forgotten about this year. And, I think Georgia benefited. They benefited. So a couple of things happened. Georgia was not as good as last year. I think, that's one of those things. It's hard to say for sure, but so you got to believe Georgia was still the better team last year, and so the first thing is they're not as good this year, and the second thing is it was somewhat of a down year in college football. I would say Bama was still really good, but they didn't really kind of get it together until late after the LSU and Tennessee losses, but. So Georgia was still, it was a combination of Georgia still very good, not like elite, not like a top defense of all time good. So it was a mix of that and a down year of college football led the way for Georgia to repeat, but not taking anything away. So hard to repeat. It's so hard to run the table. First of all, I mean, you got a 15-0 year, 14-1 last year with the one loss, coming to Alabama with Alabama basically at full strength with Jamison Williams healthy. So outstanding year for the Georgia Bulldogs, and this has become a program that is very dominant. And it's like a lot of people said, Georgia Ohio State probably was the national title. You could argue they were outplayed against Ohio State. If Marvin Harrison stays in that game, does Ohio State come out victorious? Maybe so, but Georgia gets it done against Ohio State, and in basically what was the national title in some people's mind, because 65-7 over TCU, and it wasn't. You could even say it wasn't even that close. But I got to give some credit to TCU, and they're a team that after they beat Michigan, really earned a lot of respect from me. Even though Monday night was very disappointing. I thought that they could keep. I thought Georgia would win handily, but I thought it'd be like a 14 to 17 point win. I did bet them to cover at minus 12.5 is when I locked it in, but I thought it'd be a little closer. But Georgia just you saw what Georgia could do when they came in hungry, motivated. You saw Jalen Carter full go, Mykel Williams is a stud. Even the 4-string running back, number 2, I forget his name, but he's outstanding. And Edwards didn't even have to have like a monster game. McIntosh, no one player had to be spectacular other than Brock Bowers was spectacular. Other than Brock Bowers. Lad McConkey was very good, but with the exception of Brock Bowers, no one else had to be spectacular. Stetson Bennett was very good. I would say he was anything like he didn't play like a flawless game. He played a very good game and did absolutely what he needed to do. But I will. There's a lot of talk about. Stetson Bennett and his legacy. I don't even want to go into, where he ranks all time. I just want to say this. I just wanted to compliment and say as many positive things about the legacy Stetson Bennett will leave behind as a Georgia Bulldog quarterback and now a 2-time national champion, just a winner, a tremendous story. I know a lot of people, I know that's becoming, everyone say tremendous story, but when you really look into it, it is a tremendous story because there was multiple. If you guys listen to Joe Rogan Experience, he has David Goggins on there, and he has David Goggins has a quote: "Many dreams died while suffering." Not that like Stetson Bennett was going through like physical pain, but that had to have been tough. A guy that dreamed of being the quarterback for Georgia, leading them to multiple national titles, and them telling him no, and him being pushed by JT Daniels and some of the other quarterbacks that Georgia had, and him just persevering through all that. It really is a truly a great story when you dissect everything that happened and you really think of what was going through Stetson Bennett's mind when that was happening. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Didn't want to say a whole lot about the game, but Georgia moving forward, the odds, best odds to win it next year. Alabama's right up there, and another team I want to get to, LSU. I'll say this. With consideration to how hard it is to repeat for Georgia, I think LSU is my sleeper team to win it all next year because, you've seen year 2 of a coach is a key ingredient to where things start rolling. LSU has recruited very well the last couple years. I forget what was the class they brought in. It was at least a top 10 class, I think. You got a guy like Harold Perkins, so you got an elite defensive player who can rush the passer. You got an elite left tackle, Will Campbell, that started as a freshman this year. You have experience at the quarterback, Jaden Daniels, Nussmeier, maybe another guy bursts onto the scene. And, you have a defensive line that can match up with any, offensive line in the country. You got speed at receiver. They're an upset. They're, a one loss. I'll put it this way: a one-loss LSU, and forgive me, I don't have their schedule, but you got to believe a one-loss. They almost got in with 2 losses, and a one-loss LSU is in. I think I just have a feeling that this is going to be a one-loss LSU team. That if they, say they get another crack at the SEC title, what are the odds that you'll lose 2 in a row? I mean, obviously they still could, but I think that. That's why Brian Kelly, to me, was a good fit at LSU. You combine his coaching ability and now with the ability to have the elite athletes, and you have the size and speed in the trenches that LSU has. Because, like I touched on, they lost. Well, I don't know if I touched on here, but I've talked about this a lot, and I've really thought about this. Chris Sims has said, when Georgia or Bama beat in LSU or some of the top teams in the SEC over the years, it's kind of like a different way. Like LSU can match up with Georgia and Alabama in the trenches. It's more of they just execute and their playmakers make more plays. So you got to believe that LSU with the experience, Brian Kelly coaching, Harold Perkins back, an athletic linebacker who can rush the quarterback, and the studs that they have, depth at running back, depth at receiver. You got to believe LSU, third best odds right now. LSU is going to be a team that's in the mix, not only in the SEC, but nationally. And, that kind of goes hand in hand. If you're in the mix in the SEC, then, you're usually in the mix nationally. I mean, like I reiterated, they had 2 losses this year, and they were in the mix of winning, in the national title discussion. So LSU would be behind Georgia my second pick to win the national title. But since we're on this, we'll talk about Bama next year. So obviously no Bryce Young, no Will Anderson. And but who returns at receiver? They do have some young guys. Kobe Prentice is a nice player. They will have Kool-Aid McKinstry back at corner. They do return. They will have some experience on the offensive line. Some guys back. They have one of the running McClellan will be back at running back. So I mean, I don't even necessarily need to get into all the guys they have returning, but with Nick Saban, and he watched Georgia, and all the things people are saying about Georgia, maybe Georgia's the new dynasty, which I'm not ready to say. I wouldn't say they're the new dynasty yet, but they have kind of become the team to beat. To duplicate what Alabama has done, they have a long way to go. They'd have to win at least a couple more national titles to have the dynasty this year in the 2020s that Alabama had in the teens, and that they continued up until 2020. So they got a ways to go, but Nick Saban, he's still hungry. Alabama is always a hungry team, and they were Kirby Smart is kind of like the. He's duplicated what Alabama's done. So knowing that how Kirby Smart keeps them hungry, Alabama, Nick Saban will be hungry to get back. And a lot of people said that Alabama, if they would have gotten the playoffs, they could have taken Georgia to the wire. Now, would they have beat Georgia? That's tough to say. I still think probably not. Georgia, to me, was the best team, and I said that most of the year. I think. Ohio State and Alabama were popular picks in the preseason. But when you watch, even going back to the spring game, you knew Georgia was going to have a very good offense. Brock Bowers, Stetson Bennett. I already named a lot of these guys, but you knew Georgia's offense was going to be right there. And they really showed that. And this offense was still really good, and Brock Bowers back will be a key part to the Georgia offense. So I'll talk Jim Harbaugh and the NFL rumors. So what really stands out to me about this? I think first of all, Michigan has a lot of talent coming back. I mean, they have a good core top end talent returning. I mean, Junior Colson, the linebacker, J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback, Donovan Edwards, Blake Corum will return. So, you got to believe. I don't know. This is all hypothetical, but you'd have to believe, maybe not, that Michigan wins that game against TCU if they have Blake Corum in that game, because Corum's his ability to make the first guy miss. Is special, and I think he could have got a few more extra yards. Donovan Edwards is not a really make the first guy. He's not a big lateral movement kind of guy. He's more of a north and south guy, but that's beside the point. Point being is with all the Michigan players returning, Junior Colson, Will Johnson, the stud freshman at corner, it'd have to be silly of Harbaugh not to return to Michigan. I mean. Obviously, unless I don't know. I shouldn't say that, unless the NFL antes up and does pay him, that that he probably does take the Denver job. But the rumor is that if Sean Payton says no, then Denver, Harbaugh would be the first choice for the Broncos job. But yeah, the talent Michigan has returning, you got to believe that they'd win the Big Ten next season. So yeah, that would, and if he does go, the new coach is going to have an opportunity to really do something special in year one. And this is a team that very well could three-peat in the Big Ten and will get Ohio State and Ann Arbor this season. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on Jim Harbaugh, Michigan. We talked a little LSU, Alabama, and then Georgia winning the national title. So thanks for tuning in, guys, to this episode of Big Time Football Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.